Inday Espina-Varona began her career as a reporter at the Visayan Times, a local newspaper in Bacolod City. She then took on different roles and responsibilities in different news organizations, such as the Manila Times, Philippines Graphic, UCA News, and ABS-CBN Integrated News and Current Affairs. She won the Reporters Without Borders Prize for Independence at the 2018 Press Freedom Awards. Inday was previously the chairperson of the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, a post that was also held by her brother Nonoy. She now serves as head of regions for Rappler. Let us all welcome Inday Espina-Varona.
Magandang araw po. Thank you, Red. Thank you, Denise, and everybody's here. Ikakwento ko lang konti. No? When Red sent a message about this new program for Filipino journalists and asked permission to name it after Nonoy, the whole family, his wife Lenny, children, Daki and Liway, kaming marami niyang mga kapatid, felt that it was an honor. No? So the Jaime Espina Klima Correspondents Fellowship focuses on things na very dear kay Nonoy. Una, ang pagbibigay sa community journalists ng opportunities to improve their skills. No? Two, the resources and platform for more in-depth reportage. Alam natin ito talaga panaginip to, no, ng maraming community journalists to have enough time, to have enough resources, no, and platforms kung saan pwedeng malabas ang mas malalim na mga storya tungkol sa lipunan. And three, as Red mentioned briefly, but I'd like to go deeper, si Nonoy talaga very, very insistent na ang mga kwento tungkol sa lipunan ay kailangan ang lenses ay hindi dun sa key big actors, kundi dun sa grassroots actors. Yun kung kaninong buhay ang naapektuhan talaga ng mga problema at sino talaga ang naghihirap, no, outside of the big talkative actors, naghihirap para maayos ang mga problema ng kanilang mga komunidad. No? So, next po. The thrust on environmental issues, of course, especially energy development and transitions, would also appeal to Nonoy. Because while he was well known for covering stories on human rights and civil liberties, wala namang halos storya si Nonoy, walang storya ng human rights na kapag kinalkal mo ay hindi nakaangkla sa iba't ibang mga issues tulad ng tug of war over resources and also over communities' desire to protect their environments and big capitals' desire to exploit those same environments. No? So as director and eventually chairman of NUJP, na Nonoy trained journalist, generations na, mas bata pa sa mga anak namin. So, generations of training na yan, ano? And always, when he was covering conflict, ang lagi niya is go beyond the body count. Let's show the whys and the hows, no? Of why these conflicts erupt. But more than that, ang gusto ni Nonoy lagi is, hanap tayo. Baka naman may alternative dyan na hindi pa nasusulat. Baka may model dyan na maaring pag-aangklahan ng hope para sa communities na ito. Next, please. So, isa pa yung ano ni Nonoy is, while totoo that we need technicians and we need specialists, because that's the way governments and industries work, si Nonoy talaga gusto niya go beyond jargon. He would perpetually ask reporters, teka muna, anong gustong sabihin yan? How will a farmer understand that term? How does that term relate real life, real time sa buhay ng ating mga magsasaka o manggagawa o kaya mga mangingisda or anybody from any community. No? Alam naman natin na si Nonoy ay hindi stranger sa threats. No? Red said earlier, ngayon medyo nakasentro sa National Capital Region yung threats. No? May cyber libel cases involving energy reporters and outfits that covered certain energy investment stories. Pero for the longest time, ang karamihan ng threats and karamihan nga ng may killings pa no, ang mga harassment, dun yun sa provinces And basically, a lot of those stories were about environment, about the struggle for resources, about yun na nga, yung pagpasok no, ng mga bagong teknolohiya na ayaw ng mga komunidad. No? Next, please. At Nonoy very, very conscious niyan. No? Sinabi na ni Red, so hindi ko na masyado siyang ulitin na isa sa mga maaga na kinover ni Nonoy, itong halos itong napakainit na kampanya at talaga medyo madugo rin to sa Negros Occidental, no? Ito yung one mining, and next please, yung sunod ay tungkol sa renewable energy, no? Itong gusto ng taong bayan na wag pumasok ang coal kasi noon pa lang panahon na to ay nag-explore na merong mga ibang alternatibo sa tinatawag natin na dirty energy. And Nonoy, and like Carla nga, na kaibigan rin namin talaga, kababata, kinover niya to, hindi niya to hinintuan, hindi ito one-off story. Sabi nga ni Red, hinabol niya across the country, across the world, kung saan every twist and turn of a story, he tried to make his articles impactful and moving. Hindi lang siya technical. Para sa kanya, importante that his stories would move people and that the stories from ang tinatawag dati margins, kasi malayo sa capital, ay pwedeng magpukaw ng mga tao sa National Capital Region to sit up and say, yes, that can be done. It can be stopped. There can be alternatives to certain technology. It was a long trail and a journey, both for Nonoy, the journalist, and the community served. No? Masyadong powerful yung mga proponents ng coal, may kapit, no? Hindi lang sa local level, but all the way to the national level. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, that story was way back in 2002. So it shows us na ngayon, some things never change and we can still continue to monitor the abuses, the corruption that usually accompanies these big ticket projects para sa for the advantage of our communities. Now, as much as Nonoy ranted and lamented over painful events, over stupidities in government, over abuses, there was one thing that always sa bandang huli really also was his trademark. This was his optimism. Despite his disdain for the abusive and corrupt in government and in business, he was always optimistic about communities' capacities for self-correction and change. And he was never more happy than to actually see these changes. Makikita mo yan, umiiyak-iyak pa yan, sabi nga, medyo pusong mamon yan. No, kapag wala sa camera, iiyak yan, he can cry over triumphs of communities. And especially not just triumphs over problems, but yung triumphs na nagpakita na nakahanap sila talaga ng alternatibo na pwede maipakita at magsabi, pwede ganito, pwede tayo magbago. And in amplifying the voices from the ground with this coverage, Nonoy believed that the dissemination of accurate facts and the right context of events would help communities get together and think up alternative development models. And history has told us that with enough push and grit, alternatives can become mainstream. This is what the fellowship aims to do. And ulitin ko yung reassurance ni Red, si Nonoy was not a specialist, he was a generalist, and it is usually a generalist that who manages to link the different skins of life together to make stories more understandable. And once stories are understood by people, people are more willing to act, for change. So ito po ang fellowship na ino-offer ngayon. Ako po na from din at galing din, correspondent din dati sa probinsya for the longest time, nananawagan ako. Minsan rin lang, mas maganda nga ngayon, marami rin na, pero with every opportunity for us in the province, for us correspondents, to network and work together. Ito kasi isang binibigay ng Klima Fellowship the ability, the opportunity to network with each other. Kunin po natin yan. Dahil maraming mga istorya na kung hindi natin sisimulan na ikwento, ay baka matabunan na lang talaga. Nasa atin po yan. Komunidad natin yan, buhay natin yan, trabaho rin natin yan. Maraming salamat po.